Welcome back. So, I don't want to say I don't want to speak or talk about anything at the moment, but I just don't feel like I got everything I want to say together, if that makes sense. But I still feel like I'm supposed to just talk about what not particularly is on my mind, but things that God is wanting me to say. I don't feel like I know how to say it. So I noticed that I was, I don't want to say I was drawing in, but I was noticing a lot of people that don't like to be wrong. And I was thinking back on a few videos that I posted and how I didn't say like scripture correctly, or I wasn't telling like the Bible stories the correct way, or I was like saying the wrong names. And I kept saying in those videos how I didn't really write anything down or didn't like put it together how I normally would. And it showed. For me, it showed, because if I would have, how I felt, if I did my due diligence to look at everything the way that I normally do, I would have caught the things that I got wrong or said wrong. Because normally I would go and I would look at the scriptures that I'm about to talk about, if that makes sense. But I didn't. I would just make the videos saying what, came out in the moment and just spoke on what was taking place. And then it when I was thinking back on it, I was irritated because I was just like, I felt like that was a setup. Like, I feel like like I said before, a lot of things are taking place in the spirit right now. And I feel like there are certain people trying to make a mockery of God, and they're trying to use God's children to prove that mockery or prove their points of why they don't want to take Christians seriously, or they don't believe like Christians take their faith seriously. But in all actuality, like I was trying to say before, God is using situations like this to refine his children and prove his points to the people that are trying to prove a point per se to him. And I'm not saying that knowing scripture verbatim is not important, even though I say quite often I don't think it's as important as people try to portray it to be, because God is always going to show up and show his hand in it, if that makes sense. So while I was beating myself up per se about not doing things how I normally would by going into the scriptures and making sure that what I'm saying is correct, because that's just the type of person I am. I don't like speaking I don't like talking unless I know what I'm talking about. And I'm pretty sure I've said that before too. But in this situation, it was just like God literally had me just talk. And then when I would just talk, I would say things wrong. And I'm just like, Lord, that's why I don't like doing things that way, because as you can see, like, one, I'm not, like I said before, I'm not trying to cause anybody to stumble. And then two, it's just like, how am I supposed to be helping people learn about you if I'm teaching them wrong per se? Like, that's how I'm thinking about it in my mind when I do these things and I notice that I've said something wrong. And God constantly shows me how he allows that to take place so that he can show who he is in the midst of all of that. Because he showed me how there are certain people that he's placed into my views, or like viewing. I've seen them in a way that he's just like pointing out that these people don't like to be wrong, and I don't want to call it a pride thing, but God is showing me how it's easy to get caught up in that Pharisee type of thought process without even trying to. And I don't want to explain too much into that because like I said, I don't want to cause anybody to stumble. But he was showing me how certain situations, I'll call it like it is. I'll be like, that's witchcraft. Like, people is legit using witchcraft, and I'll get upset with God because I'm just like, Lord, why would you allow them to do this or that, or certain things that I'm just like, that's just flat out witchcraft. Like, why would you even allow that? And God was still showing me how it's leaving room for him to do the things that he does. Because, like I said, I get upset at it because I'm just like, why are you even allowing it to take place? Like, if I'm doing what you're asking me to do, if I'm supposed to be a vessel being used by you, like, how are other people that are into those type of things able to how are they able to show up as if they're showing up like you? And he's trying to help me understand that because he's using me, people are noticing that. And not to say that in like a cocky way, or I want people to look at me, because believe me, I really don't. But how he was trying to help me understand it, there was a lady, she called, and it just sounded like straight witchcraft on her end. And I was just like, Lord, why would you even allow me on the phone with this lady? Like, why even put me in this position or that situation? And later in the week, God showed me how it was witchcraft around it. But then he also showed me how he's using these same type of people to counteract the witchcraft that they're used to. So how I want to explain that better? Like, from my viewpoint, I grew up in the church. So there's certain things about growing up in the church that you're just it's easier for you to be closed-minded about things and stuck in your ways about things, because this is how you grew up and this is just what you saw and this is what you think it's supposed to be. So it's like those churches that's you have to wear a head covering, you have to I don't want to get in specifics and confuse people on certain things either, but just like there's certain thought processes that come with growing up in church. And it's just like, if you know, you know. If you know, you know. Like, not being able to chew gum in church, like the pastor can hear you chewing or something, like stuff like that. But just like there's people that's stuck in a mindset like that, there's also people that are stuck in the mindset of what they've learned with witchcraft. And what God was trying to help me understand is that there's a people who've seen that, grew up in that. They see the bad per se in that type of lifestyle or way of doing things, and they want to know the difference. They want to understand how God does it compared to how using other means of spirituality to do things. And it's the same with growing up in a church and seeing people do the formalities of church compared to someone who sees a church that's like actually saving people, or actually, like, I don't want to say saving, but delivering people from whatever they need deliverance from. And having that open space for God to be able to do what he does, to make people draw to him in the way that he draws people to him. And I felt like it was those type of situations taking place. Like, I can't remember how I said the dream, but I had a dream a while ago, and I was talking about how I didn't know if I was at like the border of Africa or in some type of African country where they wouldn't let me cross over the border for some reason. And when I walked through the land, it was like undeveloped land. And I was saying how I was surprised I made it through the undeveloped land and didn't get eaten by just wild animals or things like that. And I can't remember, but I think I said, like, once I got to the border patrol area, they decided to just let me go through. I'm pretty sure that's going to come up sometime soon, because I know I wrote it down. But in the sense of that, I believe I said something like God is judging like the witchcraft being done in those areas. And I really didn't know exactly what he was saying at the time, or what I was saying to what he wanted me to say, basically. But now that I'm kind of looking back, or he's showing me different things now, it's like he's I can't find the correct word I want to say, but applauding is the word that's coming to mind. He's applauding these places for turning around and changing their ways of how they're going about doing things, and how they're giving him glory instead of using other means to do the same thing that God can do. Like, they gave God a chance, and they see that it is God, and they're giving God the glory for the things that he's doing, and they're realizing that God does the same thing that they try to use other means to do. And it's like God is receptive of that, and is like giving them back the honor of honoring him. Like, I wish I could explain that better, or I wish I could say how I'm hearing it better. But it's like God giving out a warning and people taking heed to the warning. Like, he's happy the people took heed to the warning and listened. And because they listened, it's like he wants to honor those people for listening. And it's like he placed that warning out to multiple people. Like, it's not just that nation that he gave that warning to. It was that same warning sent out to multiple people, and other people listened and people didn't listen. And for the people that listened, it's like God is giving them the recognition that, you know, he's happy that people took heed to it. But then there's also a people that he's just like, I'm giving you another chance. I'm showing you how what I said before is still the same, but there's a difference between you, the people that's actually listening to what he's saying, compared to what could take place to the people that don't. The Bible verse that came to mind, there was a few Bible verses that came to mind with this, because it was just like, it was more so that people being wrong and not wanting to accept that they're wrong and try to correct like their ways of being wrong, or being stuck in needing to be correct instead of understanding God's bigger picture in things. And then it's the wanting to feel as if you're doing the right thing, but the outcome isn't showing up as if you're doing the right thing. Like, the right thing may not seem right at the time, but again, for the bigger picture, what's right is going to be shown as what's right. And then the last thing is, it was like judging others from a point of not understanding because you're stuck in certain ways. And even with reading the Bible verses, I still don't feel like I fully have grasped the whole concept to even be talking about it. But the Bible verses that came to mind was it's labeled as Jesus honors a Phoenician woman's faith. That's in so it's in multiple places in the Bible. The two main places that pointed out to me was Matthew 15 verse 21 through 28. And it's worded a little different than the Mark 7 24 through 30. And even with both of those different wording, like, I understand how God speaks to different people according to like what they're going through with the text. So like, I can see both views from it when I read both of those texts, even though it's the same story, but it's definitely saying two different things. So that was one. The other was Matthew. So the Good Samaritan is Luke 10:25 through 37. And what stood out with that verse, that whole text, when I went in to go read about it, I was initially going to read about pretty much the story that Jesus was explaining with who is considered the Good Samaritan. But when I was reading it, right before I was reading it, I was thinking about how chapter 10, verse 27 says, he answers, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength, and with all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. I didn't realize that that was in the same text, and I didn't realize that it was. So it says an expert in the law was basically trying to be facetious with Jesus and asking him a question. And the way that it flowed into the Good Samaritan storyline, just, it was even more fitting with the whole passing judgment without understanding or thinking about how God, thinking about that whole aspect of leaving room for God to do what he does. But again, some stuff I still don't fully feel comfortable speaking on. And like I said, unless I really know what God's talking about, I'm not finna just be talking about some stuff to be talking about some stuff. But go read that and get what you get from it. The last one was Mark 7, 1 through 23, which again was a little crazy to me because, like, right after that is the story with Jesus honoring the Phoenician woman, is how it's labeled in the Bible, or this Bible that I got. And right before that, it was pretty much these Pharisees and teachers like scrutinizing what Jesus's disciples were doing, like just having Jesus and his disciples under a microscope and trying to pinpoint out every little thing that they do to, I feel like discredit them. And I was going to explain about this show I had watched and how they kind of depicted kind of like things that I don't even want to just say how some cultures have gone through struggle, but they try to portray it with robots and artificial intelligence. So they tried to make the comparison of what actual physical humans have gone through and try to relay it as these are things that AI robots are fighting for their existence or their rights as to be part of humans. And to me, is just a justification of how far people are trying to go. And to me, it's like people aren't, I don't want to say they're not standing up or defending their faith, because that's not where I wanted this conversation to turn to. But just read Mark 7, 1 through 23, and see what you get from it. Yeah. But that's all I got for y'all for now. Until next time.